Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Well, we'll be relaxing as per usual. Just sort of recording the Animal Crossing episode before I stream. I'm still trying to decide what I'm gonna do stream wise. Because the stuff I need to do, but I also did not stream last week mainly because I was busy. I was celebrating a friend's birthday. So this might just be a double drawing stream or something, just to sort of get the drawing back on track, and it'll only be 2 hours long, which is a shame. But you know, unsurprisingly, towards the end of the year, people, myself included, start to get a little bit busy. But hello everyone! Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 1:26 p.m. on Sunday, November 17th, 2024. Perhaps disappointingly, I'm not actually busy because of like holiday celebrations, and I'm busy because of both. I need to finish the thumbnail art, record some more videos, and also I need to do this thing I'm working on, which I will talk about much later, because it's a surprise. Not for you, not for someone who I don't think watches these videos, but I'm gonna, precursor it just in case. But yeah, we watched Act 2 of Arcane yesterday. It's pretty good. It's the only thing which I'm worried about. Not like worried about it in the sense I'm just like, no, how dare my favorite character do X, Y, Z? Not in like a narrative sense. Well, okay, not in a like in-universe sense. I'm worried more from a narrative sense because I'm just like, they have a lot of things they need to wrap up in the last 3 acts. In the last act, can they do it? Is basically my sort of question. The answer is I don't actually know. But there's a lot of intertwining things which I'm not sure if they have enough time to. I mean, I'm sure they probably do. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's already whatever happened is happened. It's not like they're going to change that. The story's already written out. Is what I mean. They can't undo how long or whatever it's going to take. But it's interesting. Because it's a sort of thing where pacing is a really sort of undersold hero of narrative storytelling, isn't it? Because you can delve into characters and things like that, but some people don't care about characters, some people don't care about lore. I'm not sure if I've met someone who doesn't care about pacing in a thing, because I think it's one of those much more subtle things which people like intrinsically know when it's off, but don't notice as much when it's, there. Because pacing, I mean, it dictates obviously the pace of how a show goes. It dictates, oh yeah, these other beats you got to hit at this timing. I mean, like when you engage with a media property, you can feel when the pacing is too fast, right? You're just like, this is too intense all the time. There's no stopping, or there's no cohesion between what's going on. Because something can be fast paced and have great pacing, and something could be slow paced and have terrible pacing, or perhaps I guess a difference between good pacing and bad pacing. There's good fast pacing and bad fast pacing. I mean, I would say Arcane, with no spoilers, is quite fast paced. They have a lot of story that they want to tell, but it feels cohesive. It feels like you're sort of bouncing back between the different storylines. You're following like Jinx and Vi storyline, then you switch, like once that's in a bit of a lull or something. Once you've hit like a good stopping point of that, you go to like Jace and Victor, and then you go to Mel, and then you basically do all this sort of jumping back and forth. And while that's certainly very fast paced, it's a very nice cohesion of multiple storylines interweaving together. By the way, I should say I'm not a writer or director or screenwriter or editor or anything like that. This is just ramblings of some random person who consumes media with really no expertise behind it. So don't take anything I say as actual truth or well studied. It's just kind of vibes, to be honest. Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, okay. What I was going to say is but you can also have fast paced be quite bad pacing as well. The one I think back to is the Mario movie. Felt like it was so insanely fast paced for some reason, because it just felt like you follow the one plot thread, well, with some tiny ones of Princess Peach like interwoven, but it's mainly just Mario's sort of plot thread, and it just sort of goes bouncing back and forth between all these different things. And they're like, there's cohesive in the sense that it's all overarching for the main goal, but it's also like, if it's written in this way, like, why does it bounce back and forth so much? The answer, because it's a franchise movie, they want to be like, oh, look at this, look, this is a reference you recognise, this is something you recognise, this is something you recognise, and, you know, it's fan servicey in that way, and I don't blame it for doing that. Like, it is, you know, a very popular franchise, isn't it? And of course, a lot of enjoyment from it comes from looking at the movie and being like, whoa, cool, look, that's Mario Kart, they're driving on Rainbow Road, or something like that. But at least from like a narrative critical standpoint, I'm just like, this movie is like really way too fast. Or I should say, it's not necessarily it's too fast, it's just the pacing feels weird for what it's going for. Like, it doesn't, maybe the better word is, it doesn't feel like the pacing is cohesive enough to the narrative it's telling. Anyway, the long and short of it is, like, narrative pacing, I feel like, is a very unsung hero of what the vibes are for any media property, to be honest. Because, let's be real, me and you, the average consumer, even though I try to put on this, well, not intentionally put on this veneer of sort of like critical thinking and like deep analysis and like thought process, which really goes into critically analysing, you know, the writing or the narrative or the characters or the world, etc., like that. All of this is completely just based off like pure vibes from me, isn't it? Like, it's not I don't have enough writing experience to comment on like what makes good writing or bad writing. You know, maybe I engage some media properties, maybe I read some like critical analysis of people who do, but at the end of the day, that's just regurgitated information. It's not my information, is it? It's not something like I've learned on the job. It's not something I've learned through experience. It's just something I've learned through kind of vibes and seeing like when it's done wrong and when it's done right. And it could be complete misinformation. I don't try and spread misinformation, but I do, excuse me, sort of try and preface everything that under the understanding that it's all subjective. This is just all basically my opinion, right? You shouldn't be looking at it from any more than just the ramblings of a mad woman. But to give myself, like, to be fair as well, the target audience for basically all media properties are people like me, probably people who do less of this narrative analysis of this, probably who take a much more less analytical approach to appreciating media than I do, which I think is the norm, right? Like, most people, in a very reasonable way, when they're like, I want to be entertained, I want to engage with a media property, just engage with it and be like, I liked that or I didn't like it. And, you know, there's not necessarily that much more which needs to go into why you like it or why you don't like it. I'm sure, like after most people, myself included, are watching media property, you just be like, oh, you like it or you don't like it. And sometimes you don't think any more of it. You just be like, oh yeah, that was a really cool experience. Or like, could have been better. I don't know actually if this is true or not, but I'd imagine that it's the most common response is to not sit there and analyze why you liked or why you didn't like a movie. And like, I'm sure if questioned, it would be like, oh, you saw that movie, like The Wild Robot or something, what do you think? And they're like, oh yeah, I liked it. And they'd be like, oh yeah, what made it so good? You could come up with a response, but the response is not going to be like some deep breaking down analysis of exactly what's going on. It's more sort of just like, oh yeah, it was like really pretty, or it's like, oh, you know, I thought the voice actress did a great job at voicing a robot, or like, I thought the characters were funny. You know, but not going down being like, oh, you know, the character arcs that they go through are such like narrative growth, the callbacks and forths, or like how the aesthetics of the beauty of nature and contrasting with the brutality of it can really show an interesting sort of well, I was going to say oxymoron, that's not, dichotomy, that's a better word, of how nature is like a cruel, unrelenting force, but can hold so much beauty within it as well. Just like, you know, the mirroring of the society that they built as well. That's probably not something which is going to happen. I mean, maybe it is. Obviously, those are like straw man arguments. These are like the two extremes. But the thing is, like, with these sort of like intrinsic feelings people get from engaging with a media property, I feel like pacing is a huge one which really underpins a lot of it. Like, obviously good characters, bad characters, you know, that's an important part for media property, but look at how people engage with fan fiction. A bad character, people just rewrite the canon in their mind to their own fanon and just be like, oh, I didn't like the way this character's written. I'm going to read a fanfiction. I'm going to create a fanfiction. I'm just going to, imagine what it'd be like if his character did something different, And then they can just accept that. Like, people can just, like, rewrite characters just like that, right? Or they can rewrite the world. Or be like, oh, that's a plot hole. Like, oh, man, let's think of a alternate timeline where that plot hole didn't happen, and we can, like, circumvent it, and boom, the story still works. But I feel like narrative pacing is a much more difficult one for your average viewer, myself included, to, like, fix, like, post it after watching something. You watch something, you'd be like, oh, it's really good, but, like, how do I fix the pacing? Like, I had to intersperse more scenes. It takes a much more sort of experienced directive viewpoint, I think, to understand exactly where and when things should push and when things should pull back on the pacing. Which is why I'm just like, it's such an unsung sort of hero. Like, a lot of things can make or break a media property, but that's one which is like, well, many things can make or break a media property. This is one which is, like, not fixable by the average person. That's kind of my theory. I don't actually know if that's true. Maybe the average person out there just goes, oh man, that pacing of that movie was so bad. Imagine if they just, like, cut out all of those scenes. I mean, it'd be good or something. I mean, I guess that's probably to the extent it goes to, but it's not like you reimagine the entire movie in your head with a new pacing. Or maybe you do. Because that's quite difficult. Pacing is kind of like all in the scope within the entire of a media property. It's one which is the sum of a whole rather than the parts. It was taken as a whole rather than the sum of the parts. There's a word for that. I can't remember what it is. Word for taking something as a whole rather than its parts. Synecdoche. That's it. Right? That sounds right. Hold on. Synecdoche. I'm adding a bookmark. What am I doing? Define synecdoche. A figure of speech in which a part is made to represent the whole or vice versa. Okay, so this was the word I was thinking of. I didn't realise it was just for words. But yeah, it's something which I feel like only gains any context within the scope of the entire thing, because it's like, how can you tell something is bad or slow pacing from one scene? You can tell how that scene is paced, but you can't tell how the entire movie is paced, because pacing is sort of like a throughout thing. It needs a comparative reach beyond adjacent and non-adjacent scenes to really understand, how it all fits into the speed or into the sort of flow which is going on, right? Which I think, even if I don't know if that is factually true, it seems to intrinsically make sense to me, right? Because pacing is something which really needs the sort of flow to go with it, and flow is something which can only really work from the movement, the transition from one thing to another, right? So being able to represent it with just as an individual is not really all that doable. Phoebe is very annoyed there. We don't know who annoyed her. Oh, was that just a sliver of order we saw? I'm not sure. I swear I saw some orange. Let's see who it was. What are our two besties doing? Oh, it's Raven. Oh, classic. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking about this. Like, I was thinking about it. I think it must have, like, very subtly been brought up in my mind because I saw some comments. Oh, you know what it was? I was looking at, like, an alignment chart meme or something, and someone was trying to fill it in based on, like, two different writing things. Like, one axis was, like, good writing, okay writing, bad writing, and good graphics, okay graphics, bad graphics. And the one that sort of interested me was the fact that it was, like, in great animation, average animation, bad animation. I think Last Wish was good animation, great writing, or great animation, great writing, which is obviously very true. I 100% agree with that. But the one that interested me, which was like Has Been Hotel, was great animation, terrible writing. And I was like, I've not seen Has Been Hotel. I didn't think the writing was that bad, but the main criticism I hear about his writing is that it's insanely fast-paced. Like, the pacing is, like, there's not enough time for all the characters to really sort of breathe. But, like, I mean, it's got an aesthetic it's going for, It's a very much an aesthetic which you would find in, like, Hot Topic, It's targeting, presumably, the teen to young adult. Well, I'm not even sure teen, probably just young adult sort of audience with a sort of, like, not quite edgy. Maybe edgy? I'm not really sure how to describe it. Like, the only way I can think to describe it is Hot Topic, which I suppose is edgy, but still. With a sort of like off-brand edgy-ish humour. Like, that's kind of what it's going for. And, like, I feel like as I understand, it does kind of succeed in those parts. But again, I've not watched it, so it's not really my place to say. So I was just like, that seems a bit harsh to put in terrible writing. Like, I don't think it's, from what I hear, I don't think it's revolutionary. But like, terrible is like pretty extreme. Anyway, to be fair, there were some comments on it where people just being like, you know, this, I think it was on the subreddit as well. I was like, this subreddit despises Has Been Hotel. And I'm just like, all right, fair enough. People are subject to their own opinions. And to be fair, that got me in sort of like thinking about it as well. It was like, well, maybe it's because the pacing is so crazy that it's like, it sort of ruins it for a lot of people. But that is something which is like very unfixable for a lot of people, isn't it? Like if a character's super hateable, you just hate that character, right? And there's, I guess if an entire cast is hateable, that's probably the, maybe that's the key point here, is that pacing is intrinsically tied to one thing. You can't break it down to its parts. But with characters, it's very rare for a media property to have an entirely hateable cast rather than a hateable few characters or boring few characters. Normally there are some characters which steal the show some way or another, and people love them, right? But with pacing, I guess you can have sections where the pacing is totally off. That's true, but I feel like it's more intrinsically tied to its entirety of itself. Or maybe perhaps it's better put, it's more common to have a pacing be a problem throughout rather than a pacing being a mistake only in one section. Is that true? I don't know. When I say that out loud, that doesn't sound true to me. The more I think about it, that sounds like why wouldn't that apply to character writing as well? And the answer is I don't know. If anything, I would argue that probably is more for world building, right? Like the world building is something which is so intrinsically tied with itself that a failure in one thing brings down the entire part, no? I wonder if I can find the alignment chart again. I mean, this is a very similar one, premise versus execution. I can't remember where I saw it though. What counts as a Halloween movie? I don't know. I feel like the alignment chart one is always very funny. What do you consider RPG? No, it's not that one. Oh, here we go. It's like this one, but it's a good movie, good animation. Bad animation, good movie. Bad movie, good animation. Bad movie, bad animation. Yeah, something like that. But it had 3 of them. This one also doesn't have Has Been Hotel in it. That's only a 2x2. Alignments of fictional fish. Alignment chart. What on earth? That's getting too meta. Starts a Pokemon personality alignment chart. Okay. Origami? Alignment chart? What is this? The alignment chart memes always crack me up because like the top 2x2 grid is actually taken like somewhat seriously in my opinion, and then you get to the radical section and like the radical in one but purist in the others, like that's kind of serious, but then it just gets really funny with the bottom 3. This is a good one. Traditional origami fingers origami. Modular kusudama origami. Shirt folding is origami. I guess it's not really, because I think origami, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I think it's very funny. Modern origami models are origami. Papercraft is origami. Burrito wrapping is origami. Crumpled paper structures are origami. Paper mache is origami. Yoga is origami. It's just I love the punchline every time of a radical overlap. What's this 4D chart? Smart, normal, dumb, strong, normal, weak, good, neutral, evil, lawful, neutral, chaotic. Oh my god, I'm not reading out. That's too confusing. What is going on? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it again. Anyway, I love the alignment chart things. They're so silly. They're so silly. Just a silly guy. So fun. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So I guess we're talking about pacing? I don't really know. Narrative pacing. Anyway, I didn't actually bring up many examples, to be honest, but anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been dear darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.